Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. I know it's getting late, so I appreciate that you've come for this panel, which will be focusing on EdTech in Germany. This is going to be an expert panel that will analyze the challenges and opportunities in the German market. It will be focusing particularly on how companies have implemented successful technology initiatives. So to begin with, I would like to welcome to the stage Klett Heiss, the managing partner of OpenCampus Germany. Klett is the managing partner of OpenCampus, which is a startup with a focus on education management and networking technology. Together with several of the German universities, OpenCampus has built a system which has allowed an ecosystem, and it's just about to be rolled out to some more universities, not only in Germany, but also on an international level. Klett Heiss has studied medicine at the Technical University Munich and was working as a resident physician at the Institute of Human Genetics at the Helmholtz Zentrum Munich. And I would like to now introduce to the stage Dr. David Klett. Dr. David Klett is managing director of one of the 4 divisions of the Klett Group, which is among Europe's biggest education companies. David is responsible for a series of specialist education publishing houses in the German-speaking Europe, as well as for worldwide cooperation and merger and acquisition activities. After graduating from economics and philosophy, David Klett earned his doctorate in sociology of the family and of childhood. And the Germany-based Klett Group, with its 61 companies and 34 locations in 15 countries, is one of the leading education-dedicated enterprises in Europe. So now I would like to welcome to the stage Alice Steinbuck. Alice is the coordinator of social innovation, Vodafone Foundation, Germany. Alice is actually the head of social business at the Vodafone Institute in Germany. And the institute, it's very interesting, she has currently been building an accelerator for social ventures in this area of education technology, so it's quite brand new. Alice Steinbuck has gained practical experience in the international and non-governmental organizations, where she has worked for more than 4 years as a senior consultant in economic policy department at the Ramboll Management Consultancy. She also has a Master's of Advanced International Relations from the Diplomatic Academy of Vienna, so she's very international, and a Bachelor of Arts of Social Sciences at the University of Maastricht. And finally, I would like to welcome and professional development. In 2009, he graduated from a Master of Public Administration at the Columbia University of New York, so again, quite international, and also at the Hertie School of Governance in Berlin. After further university studies in Dresden at the TUM, and also in Strasbourg, then he also co-authored a book, and this was on the university in the 21st century. And since 2014, he's been a member of the Global Shapers Network and the World Economic Forum. Since 2015, he's also a member of the German Startup Association of Education Technology. So quite a panel. So I'd like to start with focusing on the German market. It's actually often seen as being quite an opaque market, arguably so. And originally then, there has been some kind of resistance to the way in which change has been happening in Germany, particularly within the curriculums and in the EdTech field. So for example, often people have echoed, everything's arranged quite well, therefore we don't need any more change. So I wanted to start by asking the panel a little bit about what their opinions or what their experience have been with this resistance, and how you've dealt with this resistance, both from the curriculum level and also in terms of implementing the EdTech into these curriculums. So perhaps we'd like to start with Kirsten.
Yeah, so reporting about my experience, it's probably, as usual in Germany, people are afraid of change. That might be something typical in Germany. But other than that, I think one of the problems is what is actually the benchmarking for universities when I change something? Is it about the service that I could increase for the students, or the outcome and performance? Or are they looking at the costs? And the problem is that it's actually just, if I change something as a stakeholder at the university, I would probably only do it if I could lower the costs dramatically, because the other aspects are not benchmarked. I don't benchmark the service level for the students, and I don't really benchmark the performance. So these indicators are actually lacking as parameters in the German education culture. And I think this is probably something that really needs to be changed, because this is blocking the will to change, and that refers to EdTech and all the other aspects. And I think there needs to be an attitude change in Germany, otherwise they'll lose against the rest of the world.
I don't know, I'm a K-12 animal, and this is higher ed, so I want to suggest that maybe you will go on so we could cover a little bit more higher ed, because, you know, K-12 is just a different thing. So if you're okay, I know it's your job,
absolutely.
but, you know, I'm sorry to...
No, well, let's start with, that's a good idea. Let's start with the higher education, and then we can go into K-12.
No, to coming back to your question about the challenges or why we still have this status in Germany, I think we have actually 3 different challenges. One challenge is actually politics. It is quite difficult in Germany due to our system, because, I mean, most of you guys know probably that we have Länder, and these Länder decide over education and not the government itself. So it's a finger pointing from the government down to the Länder again. And then at the end, there is always this killing argument of resources, of missing financial resources. The second challenge is actually the school system itself. I think we would need new teacher profiles, we would need a new curricula. It is actually very sad, but in Germany, I think the education system and the curriculum didn't change the last 50 years probably. And the last point is, I think there is a general fear. It was already pointed out, I think there is a fear in the public. What is actually education technology? What can these digital tools do? And also what happens with our data? I think this is one major discussion in Germany all the time when we talk about these subjects.
Okay, well, I'll add a bit more on higher education. I think it's in the field of teaching, as you said, you get what you measure, and yeah, since little is measured there, there's also little competition for improvement. When we started out with the MOOC production fellowships, we were the first platform in Europe to offer MOOCs, and we were also the first platform to offer MOOCs that granted full credit. The idea was to capitalize on the actually regulatory advantage we have in Europe with the Bologna system and the Lisbon Convention that obliges universities to accept credits granted by other universities, which in principle establishes a common market for credit. So we saw an opportunity there to forge ahead and enable students to take courses from universities across Europe. The idea was to create a digital Erasmus program where you could really take advantage of what's being offered from universities across the continent. So in theory, that's possible. Technically, that's possible. We showed that. But was there an incentive for institutions to take advantage of these opportunities? Not really. So we did that. We worked with institutions. They offered courses online. Students from somewhere in Europe took them, got the credit, got it accepted. But then we turned around and everyone said, "Oh, that's great, you did that." But no one picked up picked up on it, because there was this idea of the entrepreneurial university that was propagated, but there's really little incentive for these institutions to actually act in an entrepreneurial way. So I think that is the incentive structures are key.
Actually, there's a lot of hand-wringing and whining around, because why is EdTech not taking off in Germany? Why is it not, playing a bigger role in the classroom? And I was, I was often part of this, crying and making a lot of finger pointing on other people and the politics, and there is no good infrastructure in the classroom. But at the end, I think we should start. For instance, we publishers should start on our own turf. I mean, maybe we are not as good. Maybe we're not good enough. I mean, maybe we should offer better products, better services. So, because I believe teachers, if they see that we can help them, if they see that we can offer them something that makes learning in the classroom and beyond better, more efficient, they will find ways. They will find ways, I believe, to get their hand on infrastructure they can use. They will find ways. They will try things out. It's really maybe, I know a lot of German startups that are, complaining why they're not successful in the classroom. And I think, yes, I think also you have a shitty product. But it's very easy right now if you're not successful. You can just say, no, it's not about us. It's about the teachers. They're not, I don't know, computer literate enough. I mean, we should, try harder. I think that's how we should deal with this in Germany, I believe.
Yeah, maybe I can comment on that. So I had cases where actually the teachers were willing to try some new software for the course, and they really wanted to have that, but it wasn't free. So that is a problem. The university had to pay for that, and they said no, they cannot just do that because of the regulation. Yeah, they would have to open a tender and so forth, and it would take a long time. So I think the rules that apply, the over-regulation might also be a problem in Germany, right? So assuming that they would have the whole infrastructure for free, that might work. But as soon as it's a commercial product, with the over-regulation, they get into a certain problem of acquiring technology.
But even free doesn't really work. I mean, we started out with a free product, and still, there's just little initiative to even bother. I mean, I literally had this conversation once with someone who said, well, we have something, there's no need for improvement. No? So then even free doesn't do it.
I mean, regulations, yes, for sure. We can complain about regulations, and it's terrible in Germans. Germans are so great when it comes to regulations, and I mean, often people say when it comes to privacy rules, in Germany they just try to do everything comply to those rules. In Austria they try to find the back loops and find ways around, but we in Germany, we totally try to make everything right. On the other hand, I mean, I can only talk about K-12. I learned, for instance, that 130,000 teachers are saving their grades in their devices, on their iPads, in their computer. They're not allowed to do this, but they're still doing it. So I believe that, I know we have a lot of regulations, but on the same hand, teachers who want to do something, they just do it. They're just doing it. They're using WhatsApp, and they're not allowed to do it. They're using Facebook as Facebook groups, and they're not allowed it. For instance, in my home state, Baden-Württemberg, they're not allowed, but I know thousands of them are doing it. So as a teacher in Germany, you have to do a lot of things wrong until, you get punished in a way. And I think they have more freedom and more liberty. And there are so many teachers who are already using technology in the classroom in a very, very inspirational and interesting way. So yes, we shouldn't wait, we shouldn't, I can't, ask the German teacher to break any law, for sure, that would be stupid. But on the other hand, I just have to realize that teachers find their ways. If they want to do a better teaching, they find their ways. And that's our chance. So we shouldn't wait because regulations, it will take forever until they change. So we should just find the way, to sneak around these a little bit.
Yeah, again, I would completely agree. So I've seen that as well, that Facebook is being used, WhatsApp groups. We are even adding an API to connect that WhatsApp because it's being used. Yeah. So obviously there are tools that can facilitate education, but shouldn't we then actually change the regulations or change the attitude towards these commercial applications and integrate them into our education concept? So I think that is the major problem, that we try to completely prevent commercial companies to enter the education segment, in a way, to keep them off and don't share data with anybody, and that is an attitude problem. I think this is blocking the change and preventing EdTech. sort of in Germany.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually then go now over to Alice, because I think she has some experience recently of a workshop in which she was exposed to perhaps, there seems to be a discrepancy here between what startups, what companies, publishers and so on are doing, incubators as well, and then also what the perception or the negative feedback is coming from politicians. So I was wondering, Alice, if you could just tell us a bit about that and the kind of feedback that you got from the politicians.
Sure, yeah, we just actually on Monday we had a workshop about this topic, and we invited also Ken Goldberg talking about robotics and how the labor market of the future will look like and what we need to actually do in order to, get these skills and competences that are needed in the future. And we invited education experts, we invited politicians, and we invited also EdTech startups, and they discussed with each other. It was a very good workshop, but at the end of the day, and this is what I said at the beginning, the politicians are very restrictive, as I said, always pointing at the financial resources and the long development that needs to actually be finalized at the end. So what we believe in is, we actually believe in innovation competition. So what we do believe is that there will be not a transformation of the system within. So I don't think that the education system or the politicians will change it, but what we need is outside pressure. So we need startups, we need to increase innovation, we need competition, we need to show that we in Germany, and especially the startup scene, needs to develop in order to be globally and international competitive. So this was actually the outcome. So I think we need public-private partnerships at the end.
If I may come in here, one addition. It's an idea that, or sort of thought I always have when I hear this about the lack of funds to implement these things. I mean, a large part of the problem is the high cost of sales. If you talk to VCs or other people funding new initiatives, one of the problems that they always see is, you might be able to build a great product, but how do we get this into the market? If that could be taken out of the equation, then I think a lot of business cases would become a lot more viable overnight. So if the public players were to come together to form buyer consortia and would just aggregate demand at a higher level, so you don't have to talk to 5,000 schools, but one individual that represents these schools, or 20 universities, but one association of universities representing a certain group, then it would be so much easier and so much cheaper actually to get products to market. And I think that's something that public bodies could do without spending a single cent. They don't need any more budget, they just need to agree.
Oh my God, I couldn't disagree more, actually. I mean, I could agree totally that it would save the costs of startups, but can that be a reason? I mean,
yes.
What I believe, for a startup maybe, but not for improving an educational system. I mean, who knows what is needed in a school? I believe it's a teacher. It's not like higher levels, administrative levels, where you talk to, I don't know, somebody in a jury, and you have to convince him that he buys products, educational products that have to be used on the level of a school. I think there is only one answer when we talk about schools. Universities, I have no clue about universities, but when it comes to schools, we have to sell to schools because teachers have to decide what to work with. And in every country where we do it different, it's shit what's coming out at the end. I mean, we look at Slovakia, for instance. We have their 3 publishing houses, and they're fighting about tenders. And they're sitting in these crazy rounds, and they have to fill in papers for papers, and nobody knows how these decisions are made at the end. And it's good where you have the teacher in front, because the teacher knows what you need. So that is why it can't be the right way to say we have to make it easier for startups, so let's just, combine the buying power when it comes to K-12. Above that, again, I don't know, that's your turf, but below that, I think it's wrong.
I don't know about K-12, but I think having super high costs of sales that is paid for by public money, and then not having money to pay for innovation and new initiatives, digital initiatives, also can't be the answer. If you have scalable products, I think having maybe not a single buyer, but a few rather than 10,000 or 100,000, to me just seems to make a lot more sense. And then you can choose which alliance you join as a school, at the school level.
I don't think that teachers want to have imposed what to work with. Teachers want to choose. And that is that would happen in that case. They get imposed, because there are higher levels. We have this in other countries. Teachers are just annoyed, and often they don't want to adapt these new technologies because some people who normally don't have a clue what's going on in the reality of the school make decisions like that.
But they also have no choice if nothing is being built because it's not economically viable. I'd rather have them choose between 12 different things than choose between none at all because nothing exists.
I mean, at least there are existing a few things in schools. It's not like that there is nothing there. I mean, still German schools are spending 500 million every year on textbooks and supplemental material. And in most of the German states, they're not, forced to buy textbooks. In most of the German states, they would be allowed to buy other stuff. There's not like the law that they have to say they have to invest it in papers, but the schools are not doing it. There is money in the system. It's not that there's no money.
Yeah, but as I said, getting to that money is so difficult that it's almost economically insane for a lot of companies to put products to market.
If you offer a good product, and if there's money in the market, then teachers will buy it. So maybe it can be the solution to say, okay, the teachers have money, they're not spending it on my product, so we have to find another way how to just sell it so the teachers will use it. I think that is very wrong.
I mean,
it's not getting better.
We have that problem right now also with German lessons for refugees, right? I mean, you could have scalable products that you deliver to lots of people pretty much overnight, but the problem is that the people who buy it are at the local level. So you would have to talk to tens of thousands of people, which increases the cost of sales to the point that no organization that could provide a scalable product actually can sell it. I think it's a problem.
I think we should talk about what kind of products and what kind of learning environment is helpful that refugees will learn German. I think that would be the start. And I would doubt it very much that the solution would be that we have, I don't know, a cheap service to supply scalable products to refugees, and that will be the way how they learn German. I doubt this very, very much. The smallest problem for refugees today is to buy a good learning material. What refugees need are teachers that are sitting down with them and help them to learn German. It's a dream we should create an app. Even the German Ministry of Education thinks about, let's create an app because all the refugees have smartphones so they could learn German. It's an idiotic idea. Nobody did ever prove that these people would sit down and learn German by, playing around with their iPhone. So we should start like, what does work? What is right when it comes to education? Then we should ask like, what is the right product for it? Where does the money come from? And not like starting with the problem. If there is scalability possible, how can we, make it affordable or decidable?
Yeah, but I think that's completely wrong because then you end up in a situation where
getting funny.
Yeah, because
enjoyable, very enjoyable.
Yeah, no, but I think oftentimes, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Because if you opt for, of course, best situation is you have a teacher with a few pupils in the classroom. But if you don't have those teachers, letting people sit around for half a year, not getting any lessons whatsoever, cannot possibly be better than giving them access to a decent app.
There's very interesting discussion between the two. Amazing. I definitely didn't want to interrupt there, but thank you for that. I just wanted to now go on to a little bit more about, as we're on the topic of refugees, of how then to organize those learning environments. David actually mentioned it, and then we also talked about the teacher, the role of the teacher. I'd like to ask Kirsten a little bit more about, as he's dealing with learning management systems, and so therefore the learning environments. Could you tell us a little bit more about how those are perhaps facilitating the learning environments that perhaps we're working towards in Germany?
Well, I think one aspect that we realized is that the development of these learning spaces that are being created, once we provide them with the proper technology and they accept it, are mostly driven by the students themselves. So this is something that we saw. It's rarely the teacher coming in with an invention and saying, we have a new learning space, there's a quiz or something. In actually, most of the cases, we had student groups creating gamification applications or quizzes, and then taking that to the teachers and asking him if he could put that into the curriculum, into the education. So it's actually an adverse way how this is going in Germany. It's the students bringing EdTech into the teaching. It's not the universities or the teachers. How I would actually expect it to be. It's the students in a bottom-up approach. And if we accept that this is the case now in Germany, we should probably see how we can facilitate that. Yeah? Having open technologies that are available for the students and give them the opportunity to build something that then the teachers could adopt. So that might be a way how this actually can still get into transition.
And Alice, I know that you're planning on this incubator. So in terms of the startups, the kind of startups that you'll be looking for to join this incubator, could you maybe build a little bit more upon what you're looking for in relation to what's been said?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity. No, we are actually, it's an accelerator program, and I work for the foundation for 1.5 years, and I'm building now this accelerator. So we are looking for EdTech companies with a social cause. And I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be starting in August, September, around that time. And what we want to do is, of course, we want to help the startups to develop. We want to make them, there's a Vodafone venture fund that could actually invest into these startups at the end of the accelerator program. And but we also want to do is to raise awareness and to actually show what is possible in the area of education technology. And that being said, because we have always focused at the foundation with the topic education, social mobility, and especially the topic social mobility is very, very key when we talk about education technology, because if we use it in the right way, it actually can increase social mobility because everybody has access to these tools and everybody can work better and more efficiently. So this is the whole background story of the accelerator.
Okay, thanks. And so looking more, just to go on to the funding and how things are funded in Germany, I was wondering if perhaps the panel could maybe comment on how the investments are looking in terms of into Germany. This is certainly something interesting for the audience. So for example, a German, 2 years of research in Germany decided not to open a fund in Germany and go to the US. So in looking at investment funding in Germany, could you maybe elaborate a little bit more about the challenges that you're facing there and how you're overcoming them? Please, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is actually what Hannes said initially, right? It's so difficult to access the client and have a scalable approach in Germany compared to the US. And this is probably why that fund decided to move to the US. This is something that we as well encountered. So we initially were more or less funded by the universities that came together to fund that project, because there was no VC or business angel willing to fund a project in EdTech, especially because it appeared to be really complex. And I think access to the market and the scalability in how many people can use the product, how fast, that's completely different in the States. There are lots of apps coming up, and it's like hundreds and thousands of students at school level just using it because they can. We have a little project with a grammar school in Munich, and they're actually using an app, and the problem is they all love it, but as the server system that is collecting the data between the apps is not provided by the government, the whole project is actually illegal. And that is something that obviously the US, they don't have that problem. So this project is actually nice and everybody would love to have it. But the servers would need to be run by the government. And there's actually no option that they're willing to do that. That is a German problem.
I mean, I may be the wrong person to answer this because we are funding startups as we are an educational company. We invested in several EdTech startups, 3 or 4 in Germany. And when I look around, I believe, Hannes, you know it better, but I believe in K-12 and higher ed, I would say there are 30 or 40 EdTech startups in Germany you can take serious.
Yeah, I'd say that's exaggeration. But
okay,
yeah.
so then 25, okay, 25. Yeah. But 25, if you're in Berlin and you hang around somewhere, that's very likely that you meet several of them, like hanging out there too. and smoke something and have a beer. So that's very easy to have them all in one place. And actually, I think 2 of them are cash flow positive, or maybe 3. I would say 2. There is one that is profitable, that is Bubble, a language learning platform that is used around the world to learn languages. And there is Lecturio, they may be cash flow positive.
Tutor is profitable.
And Sofa Tutor is, we're discussing if it's cash flow positive or, but yeah, okay. There is some more money coming in than's going out. So that is a good start. And, and that's a little bit the symptom. There are a lot of companies and there is money in the market. There were investment funds putting money into those companies, but only 2 or 3 were profitable so far. So that is very, very, very discouraging. It's very discouraging for investors. I think one reason is most of the startups I met when they're in the K-12 realm, their ideas are based on their own experience in school because everybody had an education, so everybody has an opinion about education and how it should be changed. And based on this opinion, often people start an EdTech startup and say, shouldn't it be totally different? And I'm the one who will change it. And then after a few years, frustration rises because the system doesn't change so fast. And you have to learn a lot to understand municipalities, what is their role? What's the role of the state? What is the role of the single teachers? Where are the budgets? Who decides? It's terrible. I mean, we needed since 1945 to understand how this works. It's sure that an EdTech startup doesn't learn it in 2 days or in a year. So I think a lot of frustration grows out of it, and then often they stop before they have the chance to really prove that their product could make a change in the classroom. This is very frustrating. It must be for founders terribly frustrating. It's for VC funds terribly frustrating. And for us in the publishing world, it's interesting. Because we have to, I believe we have the chance, we have a good knowledge. We want to try out a lot of things. I mean, that is our strategy. We want to find interesting EdTech solutions around the world and test them in Germany. So, and try to find out if that works or build our own stuff. But I think we have good knowledge what the pitfalls are. And so when we team up with EdTech startups, I think that's a good match. So for us, it's interesting.
Hannes?
Sorry, that was long.
Yeah, I just can talk about the impact investing because we are impact investing. So of course we are used to different return of investments, but I think actually maybe this is also try and error. I mean, it's a new market probably. We have to make the experiences, and I think it's still good that we invest into these markets and into these startups, knowing maybe it's a risk investment, and we don't have the usual return of investments that we would have in other sectors or with other startups. So I think it's very important that we keep that up, and that also the investors are keep their interest, even if they probably lose some money and or have to wait for their money longer than with other areas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I have a ton to add here. I mean, of course, you could talk about the funding environment in VC funding for a long time because, yeah, I've been working in this space for a while, but I'm not sure there's something specifically German to it. I mean, that's just capital markets, you know, and whether VC funds that aren't specialized in education and aware of the fact that, you know, things probably take longer than elsewhere and so on, are suitable investors in the education space. I think that's to be debated in general. Yeah, I think you have to have a fairly deep understanding of the market to be able to tell whether something succeeds and just needs longer or is actually failing.
Okay, maybe something that was mentioned by Richard Taylor, perhaps he's here, who wrote in Edu West, and he mentioned in his report that one of the ways to build sustainable businesses was to buy and build, meaning merging with other startups, companies, institutions, and schools. And I wanted to ask the panel, do you think that this is a way to build customizable solutions in Germany, or is it something that is not really possible in Germany?
Well, I think that Germany totally needs public-private partnerships. The universities and schools, they need partnerships with companies developing new technologies and working together. And this restraint to accept that you can cooperate with a company, that is actually a big issue in Germany. It's, again, in the US, it's easier to actually have a project together between a public institution, school, a university, and a private company. And the developments that I have seen were most often driven by a private company, and the outcome then could be used by all the public institutions. So this restraint to work together is again probably one of the limiting attitude problems that we have in Germany.
Buy and build sounds great. I think we're doing it every now and then. I really believe, I am a little bit afraid in a corporate environment to kill entrepreneurial spirit. So, you know, finding this great startup that is struggling a little bit and then coming as the big company and saying, come on in here, and here is your space, sit down here, and you can have your beer in the kitchen, the others not, but you. That does not work, I believe. It would kill entrepreneurial spirit. So the Klettish way, we have our own philosophy about this. We believe in decentralization up to a very strange extent. We believe we have to see entrepreneurs being in charge totally and left alone, and then we help to cooperate with others in the group. So, but this idea, you know, like having entrepreneurs and sitting together with others and then having built something new out of it, I have my doubts, because entrepreneurs want to be free and don't want to be held accounted all the time for everything they're doing. So that would be the one aspect I would, you know, I would see it a little bit different. If that was meant by the guy, I don't know. That's, sorry.
I think it is very important to create a network and an atmosphere between, as you mentioned, schools, entrepreneurs, politics. I think we have to constantly bring them together in order to understand the different demands and needs. So I think actually also, it's actually my opinion that if we don't have that, I think we won't change anything. So this is what we do as a foundation, for example, to constantly create networking events, workshops, whatsoever, to bring these different people at a table and let them talk with each other, because I think most of the time we do our things and do in our different silos. So I think it's very important to create networks in between these different sides.
Okay, so just in terms of, we'll probably go on to the last question now, but in terms of in the early 20th century, then there was the US collegiate partnerships that were based on creating a network of associated institutions. Now this is for both higher ed and K-12. The benefits of this was, of course, that they had a collective pool of resources that they could share. So if we fast forward to the present time, do you think that these kinds of partnerships, based on the early 20th century model in the US, that were the collegiate partnerships, do you think that they could actually work in Germany in the present day?
I've never heard of that, actually, so I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry. I was like, so what is this?
Yeah.
I mean, what was this kind of cooperation in the US in the 19th, what is it, 20th
Well,
century?
it's also,
19th
I mean,
century?
in the UK as well, then you have the Oxford colleges, so they're colleges that are associations between them, and then they can share resources between each of the colleges, but it's also like the German federal system. So that's also something that I thought might be quite interesting for the German environment, because in Germany then, obviously there is this federal system where it's kind of autonomous, but yet there is a possibility to share resources. So
resources in terms of money, or in terms of people, or in terms of knowledge, or in terms of
all of that.
I might tell you a little story again, what I experienced in the last years. So in the medical education, one of the courses that you need to do is the microscopy part, right? And you sit in front of the microscope, and well, with the developing technologies, universities started to digitalize that. So you had a computer program and you could zoom in like in Google Maps and do your microscopy course. Now, actually, one application like that would have been ideal for all the universities. So what did they do? 16 universities developed the software themselves. 16 times the same application with the money and the time and all the problems. And that probably doesn't make sense. So if you look at the possibilities of education research networks to do exactly that, to combine, to join forces in the development, and especially in EdTech, that becomes really usable then, yeah, because you don't need to ship the textbooks from one university to the other. You can build an application, you can have a content database, and you can share it across all the institutions.
Yeah, but we also see some of the TU9, the technical universities, they want to create online courses that they share between the institutions, so students from any of the 9 universities could take courses from any of the other and get credit for it. And yeah, we were talking to them about running that on our platform. We're also already talking to them about it for over a year now, because they are still coordinating. So I think in principle, yes, but they have a lot of time.
Right, I'm sorry, we've actually run out of time, but thank you so much. Thank you to Kirsten, thank you to David, Alice and Hannes for joining us. Thank you.